15th of August 2017, and you're bang on time for another installment of Decision 2017. As always, I trust that you've slept easy, woken up well, and you're ready to face this day, fading away their beautiful songs. Of course, to set the tone for your day, we had Jay Thomas and also Travis Green with a beautiful song, right? That his blessing is intentional, and God is intending to bless you today, regardless of what you've done. You can be faithful or unfaithful, but He still remains faithful. There is no shadow of turning with our good God. Hello, good morning. It is Tuesday, and every Tuesday, of course, we know we are following what is happening with the Decision 2017, which is, of course, a big day also for NASA today when they are going to be making their pronouncement. Everyone also is eagerly awaiting to see what that announcement will be today. So we'll be keeping our eyes peeled and keeping out our ears to hear what will be happening today. That will be happening, of course, much later in the course of the day. And the government has badly also handled the post-election unrest and created more confusion and public anger. At the weekend, Acting Interior Cabinet Secretary Fred Matiang'i publicly declared there had been no deaths in the conflict. But no sooner had he finished his statement than we got concrete information of several deaths through police brutality and the horrifying incident of a 10-year-old girl hit by a stray bullet in Nairobi's Mathare area. Two civil society organizations have put the death toll at between 17 and 20, while NASA says 100 people have been killed. But in quick succession, police gave various figures of the casualties, clearly demonstrating disorganization within the service. Police spokesman George Kinoti reported 6 deaths countrywide, yet the Nairobi police boss put the toll in the city alone at 10. We know more deaths were reported in Kisumu and outlying areas, meaning the fatalities, I should say, are higher. The big question is why this dishonesty and blatant lies, and why criminalize protest by unarmed citizens. Residents of the affected areas have reported brutal use of force, ostensibly to quell riots. Live bullets have been shot at the innocent people and families pulled out of their homes and battered by rogue police officers. Yet the authorities have shamelessly denied this. Protest or picketing is a constitutional right, and the officers are well aware of this. Police rules disavows use of brute force in handling protesters, particularly the use of live bullets. Even when faced with criminals, the rule is to immobilize and arrest. The police have a duty to keep law and order, protect lives and property. They must do dictated by the law. However, enforcing security does not mean suspending the law. It does not allow extrajudicial killing and criminalizing peaceful protest. Inspector General of Police, that is Joseph Boynet, must explain what is happening and, most importantly, rein in officers hell-bent on visiting mayhem on helpless civilians. The police must secure the nation and in particular stop criminals from hounding the public, but they must not take the law into their hands and hoodwink the public with false reports. Of course, we shall be looking at this and a raft of other issues with our panelists who are here already in studio, of course, to take us through this discussion and a raft of other issues. But before we drill deeper, we take a look at the dailies this morning, beginning with the Daily Nation. And this is what is headlining the front page of the Daily Nation today. Uhuru's unity call after heated polls is what we have as a headline. If no petition, transition committee prepares for swearing in on August the 29th. President extends olive branch to Raila. Says election dispute should be dealt with by courts. Citizens have right to protest, he says, but calls for peace, order and respect for property by those who may choose to go to the streets. This story continues on page 4 of the Daily Nation today. Also, businesses open, staff flock back to their jobs is another story that you want to follow on page 5 of the Daily Nation today. Also, Obiri, Manangoi sever gold from championships. This story continues on page 48 and 51. Athletes win races on final day of World Championships in London, putting Kenya second overall. Also, rights lobby delisted in a row. That is the story that you want to follow on page 2. And we have all the gritty details, of course, in our news bulletin this morning as well. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Standard. And this is your splash today. Raila's options. NASA leader today, he will give his supporters direction on next course of action, and in line with his interviews and revelations by confidence, he has 4 options, including protest and countrywide rallies to push for UN audit. That is what we have on page 6 of the Daily Nation today, or not the Daily Nation, but the Standard, I should say. And Uhuru gives Raila 3 options on his dispute against IBC results. Message to Jinga: dispute results in court, protest peacefully against win or accept olive branch, and friendship extended to him, but with a caveat that destruction of property, violence against people and disruption of business will be met with full force of the law. And this story continues on page 7 of the Standard. NGO board deregisters KHRC over 1 billion shillings query. This is payback. NGO board says organization chaired by Macau Mutua misused 1.2 billion shillings, evaded tax worth 100 million shillings and hired foreigners illegally. That story continues also inside the Standard today. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Star. And this is your splash today. Uhuru to replace non-performing ministers. It says most first-time president fear political fallout. This is all about decisions with no re-election to worry about. President expected to take radical steps to rebuild what he will be remembered for. And this story continues inside the Star today. Raila, why I will not run for president again? NASA flag bearer tells London's Financial Times recurrent theft of his victories part of the reason. And this story continues on page 6 of the Star today. Parliament still has less than 1/3 women threshold required by the Constitution. And of course, you'll see what this portends for that. We have also a tidy sum of money that will go because of this cost of not really having gender parity in Parliament. I'll show you later in the Business Daily. Also, Kibera Court remains closed until normalcy returns in the area experiencing unrest. This is what we have on the front page of the Star. We have the People Daily, and it says, Raila, it was my last election. Opposition kingpin says he's hanging up his boots, will not take part in any other poll. And this story is well fleshed out on page 6 of the People Daily today. Uhuru urges calmers, no work call ignored. President tells Kenyans to resume work and snap boycott, saying they drive economy, as he pleads for unity among all citizens. And this continues also on page 7 of the People Daily today. And women gain as House numbers rise to 70, 12 Parliament to have 23 elected female MPs, 47 women's reps, the highest in history, though 35 short of 2/3 gender rule threshold. And that story continues on page 7 of the People Daily this morning. The Business Daily is up next, and this is your splash today. Failure to elect women comes with 2 billion shillings bill. Money goes to paying salaries for nominated members of county assemblies. And this story continues on page 4 of the Business Daily today. Also, businesses open despite Raila call for work boycott is another story as a sidebar there. Airtel sues Communications Authority over permit renewal is another story that you want to follow on page 4 of the Business Daily today. Let's see what we have on the front page of the Citizen in Tanzania. And this is what we have today. Revealed institutions hold 94% of voter IPO. Pension funds, bank, financial establishments, fund managers and firms have invested in the telco. It has been established that 150 institutions hold 93.9% of shares worth 446.96 billion shillings, while retail investors injected 29.4 billion shillings. That story continues on page 4 or page 2 of the Citizen in Tanzania. Also, we have a standalone picture here. Dar Cairo to continue talks on Nile Basin, and we can see John Magufuli with his Egyptian counterpart Abdel Fattah al-Sisi out addressing the media at State House Dar es Salaam yesterday. That story you can continue reading it inside the Citizen also today. Print media houses walk a tightrope, says report, is another story that you want to follow also inside the Citizen. Let's take a quick look at what we have on the front page of Mwananchi still in Tanzania. Rais Kenyatta aruhusu maandamano kumpinga. That is what we have on the front page of Mwananchi. This is in Tanzania still, and this is a splash today. Bomo abomoa yapitia nyumba ya mama Ana Mkapa, Dar es Salaam. Bomo abomoa. You can read that story also inside the Mwananchi still in Tanzania. I want to show you quickly what we have also inside the Taifa Leo. I don't seem to have loaded up for you, but this is what we have as a splash today. Uhuru ajiandaa kuapishwa, kamiti inayoendesha shughuli hiyo yamfahamisha rais kuhusu tarehe atakapoapishwa. That is a story that we have on the front page of Taifa Leo today. A quick look also at what we have inside the East African this week. But before we head there, let me show you what we have inside the East African this week. Why Uhuru's second term will not be a walk in the park. This is, of course, about the new list that he has right now. Poll dispute, tension mount after opposition rejects results. Also on unity is another thing. Bruising campaigns leave country divided. Security, Kenya needs to reassure their region or the region on security and integration. On economy, high cost of living, unemployment and project funding remain key problems. And we have the full report from page 8 to 14 of the East African this week. Also, inside Philip Morris' subversion strategy, the cigarette maker takes the fight to anti-tobacco laws. This is on Outlook. And AGOA is here to stay. US assures Africa. The US is focused on a deeper commercial commitment. Asia offers respite for Africa Airlines is another story that you want to follow also on page 31 of East African this week. Also, we have the International New York Times for you. And this is what we have on the front page of International Edition. The New York Times, Chile's energy transformation is a story that you want to follow. Nation is a powerhouse for renewables thanks to wind, sun and volcanoes. Also, Mueller seeks to interview top officials, less to say to include recently fired White House Chief of Staff. And fate of Bibi won't divert Israel's path is another story, an opinion actually by Shmuel Rosner as a sidebar story on the front page of the International New York Times. We still do have also the national edition of the New York Times, and we know what has been happening with the white supremacists in the USA. A memorial to Heather D. Hare took shape on Sunday in Charlottesville, that is Virginia, after she was struck by a car and killed on Sunday. A White House statement on Virginia is also found wanting. And hurt and angry Charlottesville tries to regroup. It was a weekend of violence there. Also, as a sidebar story, tracing success of North Korea to Ukraine plants, crucial rockets, engines, and underused factories likely a supplier, investigators say. That is a story that we have on the front page of the International. This is the national edition of the New York Times, I should say. Will people pour in for eclipse? Town hubs, they just pass by, right? They will experience, or they'll be actually looking at an eclipse that is more than 100 years. That is where everyone will be straining their eyes to see today for that particular eclipse. But you have this story also inside the New York Times. We have the editorial cartoons, but I want to show you what we have first of all inside the Star. This is the editorial cartoons. This is what Victor has captured for you inside the Star, page 2. Damned if you report, damned if you don't. Of course, the media has been on the horn of dilemma as far as covering the violence is concerned. And of course, you can see the state and the opposition pointing fingers, and the opposition pointing a finger. And of course, you can see the barrel of a gun, or the media was under the gun. I'll leave it for you to decipher this. Also, we want to show you what we have inside the Standard today. It's all about Canaan, not yet Canaan, and we can see Joshua there pointing his finger on another direction. Everyone is pointing every which way as far as Canaan is concerned. Where is Canaan? This is what Gado has captured for you this morning. I want to show you also what we have inside the Daily Nation, the editorial cartoon. According to Munene, Wololo, hang on. This is what the people were saying inside the Canaan bus, Canaan Express. And of course, we can see this is bound to be maybe the executive, of course, the current executive trying to dig a trench there. And of course, now Canaan cannot cross over the Canaan Express bus. Let's see what we have also finally inside the People Daily. It's all about riots and the opposition. And this is what Stano has captured for you inside the People Daily today. All right, as always, just grab a copy of the dailies that really floats your boat. and of course also for those editorial cartoons as well. But for now, let's put this horse into full run by looking at the highlights.
I'd like to give this opportunity to John.
Civil society hit the Jubilee government deregisters Kenya Human Rights Commission.
We don't need to fight one another. We don't need to destroy each other's property. We don't need to take life.
Uhuru's call for restraint as he symbolically walks from around the house. Awaiting Raila's big announcement today, but what are the NASA leaders' options? Hello, good morning. I'm Debarl Inea. Now, the Non-Governmental Organizations Coordination Board has cancelled the registration of the Kenya Human Rights Commission and ordered that the expatriate staff working for the commission be deported with immediate effect. The board, through the executive director Fazul Mohammed, has also instructed that the accounts belonging to the commission be frozen. This move coming just days after the commission faltered the just concluded general election where President Uhuru Kenyatta was declared a winner. Kenvi Jungu has more.
The Kenya Human Rights Commission is one of the organizations that have come out publicly to condemn the re-election of President Uhuru Kenyatta. In the last few days, their senior officials have made many media appearances, including a press conference to fault the conduct of the Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission and discredit the process that gave Jubilee another 5 years. The commission, that is chaired by Professor Makau Mutua, an unapologetic critic of President Kenyatta's government, has now been deregistered. The NGO Coordination Board says the commission has misused 1.2 billion shillings and failed to pay taxes amounting to 100 million shillings. In a two-page letter addressed to the chairman, Professor Makau Mutua, the NGO's board accused the commission of operating 4 illegal bank accounts, 2 at the NIC Bank and 2 at the Commercial Bank of Africa. The commission is also said to have failed to pay statutory taxes that have accumulated to 100 million shillings to the Kenya Revenue Authority. The commission has also allegedly employed expatriates who do not hold valid work permits, concealed illegal payments to its board members which cannot be traced in the main bank statements, failed to declare annual returns, and failed to disclose payments made to the board members at the commission. Further, the commission is accused of not being able to account for 1.2 billion shillings received as at the 4th of October last year. The NGO board has since written to the governor of the central bank, alerting him of the alleged irregularities and advising the CBK to freeze the commission's accounts. KRA has also been advised to begin the process of recovering the outstanding taxes amounting to 100 million shillings. The Immigration Department is also to deport foreign staff working for the Commission who do not hold valid work permits. The Commission confirmed receiving the emailed copy of this letter from the board. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
All the confusion over who killed 9-year-old Stephanie Mura in the Mathare skirmishes deepened, with the police denying culpability and instead blaming criminal gangs. Nairobi Police Boss Japheth Koome says the police were forced to engage in a shootout with criminal gangs and that Stephanie may have been caught up in the exchange of fire.
Happened should be able to take the light cause. People who are responsible should be able to be brought to book, and the family should be able to be compensated in the light way possible. However, we cannot have the best compensation for the family for the sake of our life, but we are saying that justice must be done for Stephanie.
Sasa ile shida tuko nayo ni shida ya pesa, vile tutatransport hiyo mwili mpaka nyumbani ili aende kupumzika huko.
Wao polisi walikuwa polisi wawili. Alikimbia akakuja karibu na hapa kwa soko. Akatoka tena karudi pale juu. Alikuwa brown hivi na mslender. Na akakuja akasquat kwa kuna couple ka stima hivi. Akasquat hapo. Akisha squat aka aim kwa hii plot.
There was this gangster who was armed. And he was, as he was retreating to the back of the buildings, he was firing. So then, in between, And he was firing aimlessly. In between is very unfortunate. The child, a beautiful girl, lost her life. Very unfortunate indeed.
President Uhuru Kenyatta says Kenyans not happy with the results of presidential elections have the right to air their grievances, but through lawful means. He says peaceful demonstrations and litigation are constitutional means for them. He says, however, that people who are looting or destroying property will be dealt with by the police, even as he urged the police to exercise restraint when dealing with the protesters. The president, who has been re-elected for a second term in office, visited Harambee House and met the Assumption of Office Committee.
The police are willing and ready. Say you want to have a demonstration in this place at this time, organize it with the police. You don't need my permission or Jubilee's permission. It's there in the law. Just do it peacefully, orderly. Don't interrupt the lives of other Kenyans and express your view. That is allowed, and nobody has a problem. But as a government, we will not allow loss of life, destruction of property, and looting, because many, many millions of Kenyans also are desirous to go about their business as before. We don't need to fight one another. We don't need to destroy each other's property. We don't need to take life. To our policemen and women, we thank them for the good work that they are doing, but we continue to encourage them to use restraint as they exercise their duties. To our friends who have yet to accept the outcome, we continue to appeal to them that we have extended our arm and a hand of peace and a hand of friendship.
Kenya Red Cross has dismissed as fake early reports that they had placed the number of fatalities due to post-election violence to over 100, saying their institution only focuses on treating the injured and not handling dead bodies. Red Cross's Secretary General Abbas Gulet says their officers have reported seeing 17 bodies of those claimed to have died during the protest. According to the report, there have been 108 cases of serious injuries, from head injuries, fractures, and 8 bullet injuries. They're now blaming Kenyans for increasing calls about attacks and injuries, which turn out to be fake alerts.
Our tracing team has checked and found out we have 9 in Nairobi and 8 in Kisumu. But again, there could be more out there. So again, I'm just saying what we now know that are in mortuaries, those are the numbers that are there. In terms of the gunshot wounds, I would just say there's one that was in Hola and one in Tana River. So those are 2 in Tana River, in fact, because Hola and Tana River is the same county. 3 in Nairobi and 3 in Kisumu. There was a perception out there that Red Cross and other agencies supplied body bags to the government, and I've said no, this is not true. As part of a toolkit for our emergency, we have lots of materials and equipment, including body bags that we would use only during emergencies.
The National Super Alliance is expected to make a major announcement today following the declaration of the presidential results, which they termed as fraud. But even as they do, what is really in store for NASA leader who was making his last attempt at the presidency? NTV's Trevor Mbija looks at the options for Raila Odinga going forward.
The Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission insists that the results declared are credible and a true reflection of the will of Kenyans, but the opposition will have none of that. That being the case, Raila Odinga now legally only has 2 options. The first is to contest the results in court within 7 days. The Supreme Court, on the other hand, is expected to give the verdict within 2 weeks. During that period, there will be no swearing in of the president-elect until the Supreme Court's ruling is delivered.
Going to court for us is not an alternative. We have been there before.
The second legal option he has is not to contest the results. He can choose to concede defeat or to decide just not to contest while he is not conceding defeat. Of course, even if he chooses not to contest the results, it's possible for another stakeholder in the process, another voter, to file a petition in the Supreme Court, which then takes us back to option 1.
In the meantime, the incumbent remains the president until the successor is sworn in, albeit with limited powers.
For example, he cannot sack cabinet secretaries, he cannot make very substantial changes of a financial or executive nature in the running of government, but he still manages the government.
But filing the petition is the easy part. The other hurdle that the opposition will have to jump is adducing concrete evidence showing malpractice in the just concluded elections on a balance of probability.
Not any discrepancy, not any irregularity is sufficient to nullify an election result. And this is based on the Constitution itself and the Elections Act, which states that the irregularity must be shown to have affected the final outcome.
International observers on Thursday praised the handling of the presidential election, with the European Union mission saying it had not seen any sign of manipulation. But NASA is having none of that.
President Thabo Mbeki is a great patriot, I admit, of South Africa. But I think he should have been vetted. The AU should have determined whether he was the right person to come here. And the same goes to John Kerry. I mean, these characters, when we hear their names, they look like from heaven.
The statements of the observers will have a major impact. Trevor, speaking as somebody who has litigated election cases, I can tell you that one critical thing you look for when you are defending an election petition is for that cumulative amount of evidence from various stakeholders.
Pundits reckon that whatever the outcome, the president-elect will have to focus on healing a nation deeply divided with splits almost right down the middle. Trevor Ombija, NTV.
Ukambani MPs who lost in the recent elections are now pledging support for President Uhuru Kenyatta's Jubilee Party, insisting it is a decision reached by the Kamba community. The MPs, led by outgoing Kitui Senator David Musila, say the Kamba community cannot bear staying in the opposition for another 5 years. They congratulated President Uhuru Kenyatta on his re-election.
We have discussed this issue and we feel and it is not really limited to us. It is something that the community is considering seriously, its position in government. We've already, we feel, been in the opposition for 5 years, and we do not think it will be in the interest of the community to stay in the opposition any longer. In this connection, we will be seeking their views. We have not yet sought their views, but the views of those people you see in front of you and others are that we should no longer remain in opposition during this 5-year term.
The Kamba nation has been in the code for the last 5 years. This particular individual hasn't been, and we cannot and will not allow him to continue doing better with over 2 million Kamba people. Purely for their interest, simply because he is not in and the Kambas are not. If he has to wait for 2022, then the Kambas should stay in the code up to 2022 for a goal and an aspiration that is misplaced.
It is unfortunate that most of us never got our seat back, but we went out there not to win our seat, but to support the government. Monove and I, we've been in the forefront, it took by, and we sacrificed our seat to deliver Kambas from the opposition. And that is the point we are stressing today.